This is Jill Pack with the Seasons of Joy podcast, and this is episode number 78 entitled Parents of Adult Children with Bonnie Lyman. Are you a woman of faith who is struggling to navigate your current season of life? Do you feel like life is just happening to you instead of for you? My name is Jill Pack. I'm a certified life coach and a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I want you to know that no matter your season or circumstance, it is possible to create a more joyful life. And I would love to show you how. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad to be here. I've had some time off. I haven't recorded an episode for the last couple weeks because I have been out of town. And sometimes life doesn't go like you plan. You kind of hope that you'll get everything done before you leave on vacation, but it doesn't always happen. So I didn't get a podcast recorded for last week and the week before. So we've had a little bit of a break, but I'm so excited to be here today. I have a great conversation that I want to share with you. But before I get started, I wanted to remind you about an awakening retreat that's happening this weekend, actually, October 5th through 7th. There's a few spots left, and I would love to have you join us. You just need to click the link on my website, so www.seasons-coaching.com, and you can click the retreat tab, and there you'll find all the information about it. And we would love to have you join us. It's an opportunity to refocus on who you are, what's important to you, an opportunity to reconnect with yourself and with other women that are struggling with the same thing as you probably, and just an opportunity to be with other women, to lift each other and support each other and to learn from one another. And it's an opportunity to rejuvenate, right? When we take some time to step away and kind of do that refocusing and reconnecting, it can't help but rejuvenate us so that we can step back into our life from a place of confidence and become more of the creator that we want to be in our own life. So check out my website. I'd love to have you. There's only a couple days left to sign up for that. And so if you're interested, just go to the link and hope to see you there. On to this week's episode. I had the honor of interviewing Bonnie Lyman, and she is a coach to parents with adult children who want to connect and have relationships with their adult children. And sometimes as parents of adult children, that can be a challenge. But when we can understand some key concepts that Bonnie and I will discuss today, that can really help those relationships. So I am going to share that recording with you. So here's this week's episode. All right, here I am with Bonnie Lyman. I'm so excited to have her on the podcast today. We have a great conversation ready for you. So I'm going to turn over the time to Bonnie, let her introduce herself and tell a little bit about how she got into coaching. So Bonnie, take it away.
All right. First of all, thank you, Jill, for having me on your podcast. I'm excited that we're both trying to help women at this particular time in their life. I think it's a time in their life that there's a lot of help out there, possibly, but because we don't talk about this time of our life as much as, let's just say, maybe anticipating having some difficulties with teenagers. And I feel like once all of our children have moved out, our sphere of people, our world can get kind of small because we just automatically were around more people because of involvement with our kids. And so that's kind of leads into why I became a life coach. And in my specialty, instead of just working with midlife, it's working with moms. There's been a dad or two, but usually they handle it better. But moms navigating this new life of having adult children and issues that either came up or life with their adult children not looking anything like they thought it was, that prompted me, because I had same of those same issues. It wasn't looking like how I thought it was going to be, and that my kids would want to still spend as much time with me. They would still have the same amount of interest. This was even before perhaps they got married, that I could see that I had to find something to do with my life instead of just my involvement, my activities, my thoughts, even being about my children and now grandchildren. And so it was kind of accidentally that I got certified as a life coach. My daughter, Jody Moore, who is also a life coach, a lot of people have heard about her. In 2014, decided to go through the life coach school with Brooke Castile and asked me, it was more out of interest, hey, do you want to go with me? I actually thought I wanted to become a weight loss coach. I'd worked for Weight Watchers. And so I decided to go, not even thinking I would really get certified as a coach, but I pursued that, and which is really grateful I did. And as time went on and I decided to get serious about helping people, I decided weight loss was not the area I wanted to go to, but I was just talking to more and more people who were perplexed at not knowing what their responsibility was, what their role was, how involved, how much advice, just all these things they could do to be a part, to help, whatever avenue it was, with their adult children that didn't seem to actually be accepted maybe by their adult children. They meant well, but then it ends up them having hurt feelings or almost losing all their importance in their children's life. And the thing people never told us was there was such a transition between our roles, and as a parent of adult children versus as a parent of children, I'm going to say under 18, 19, whenever, or, sometimes it's not until if they go to college that they're totally on their own and they've cut that financial tether, that they have a different attitude, a different way of showing that they love us or they need us. And it oftentimes appears they don't need us at all.
Yeah. I think you hit it right on the head. Is, for so much of our mothering years in the beginning, right? Our goal is to raise these kids, and we play such a big part of their life. And then that day comes when they don't need us. And that's what I've observed, or they just need us differently. And that's what I've observed in my own life and all the women I work with. It's like nobody prepares us for that transition, right? The focus is always have a family, raise a family, you know, teach them the gospel, get them, help them through the milestones of life. But no one tells you that, like, what the rest of your life looks like after they all leave. There's no preparation for what it could be. And I think many women find themselves in that place where they feel lost, they feel a lack of purpose, they feel, like you said, that unimportance, right? Because we've defined ourselves by our kids' accomplishments or whatever they're doing in their lives. It's becomes part of us, or that's our perception. And so when that disappears, it can be very disheartening. It can feel lonely. Like you said, your world shrinks because you're not accessing those different groups that your kids are tied to. So, yeah. So, would you say you got certified and then you saw the need after your certification? You kind of saw the need there.
Right. And it was kind of a need, I call it, to get a life outside of our children. Now, I had always been interested, whether it was joining a bowling club or taking a couple. I remember I took a silk screening class, of having outside interests when I was raising my children, but it was more kind of a hobby. When I got up every morning, my central focus, purpose, I felt like, was to, be teaching these kids the gospel. And to me, that's teaching them to be honest and kind and grateful and resilient, making good use of their time, of preparing to become a responsible adult. And so, but when they were all gone, there was kind of this void that was missing, as to when I got up in the morning, you could kind of say I wasn't as excited. And before, it wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm so excited to get up and teach these kids these things, but it was just intrinsically there. Where now, because they had become exactly what I wanted them to become, independent of me, and yet I still had a craving and a need to be needed. And so when I say get a life, because I had been trained in this to be a coach, and I really did love, it was a vehicle for me to help other people, that it just naturally fit in. And I think in the work you do, which a lot of people, they can even recognize, okay, I need to be doing something more, but they don't even know how to go about finding what they're interested in. It's
Yeah.
a wonderful feeling to wake up every morning and get up with a purpose, something you're excited about doing in your life. And yeah, maybe for you it is. Maybe you are involved in the daycare of your grandchildren. And if that floats your boat and that works, and that's wonderful. That was not happening. That type of availability for any of my children to need that was not available. I mean, a couple of them didn't even live in the same state. Yes, they did need caretaking of their children because they worked, but I didn't live there.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't do that. So this is not the people you or I work with, but if you're still raising kids in the home, you kind of need to look to the future and be looking for things, whether it's going back to school, whether it's volunteering, whether, in my case, starting a business, whether it's going to work, whether it's traveling, but something that fills your life with that makes that time of your life satisfying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love how you said get a life, because I think that is, I think at the essence of where people struggle. We've created our life around others, which is a beautiful thing. But without creating a life that's yours, then when that time comes, you just feel lost. And like you said, just you aren't waking up every day excited or passionate about something because there's that void. So I love that, get a life.
Yeah.
Create something for yourself. And I think that for me personally, that was a similar, like, one day you realize I have hobbies, but I've put so much energy into this part of my life that's changed so drastically that it was easy to feel that lost or that lack of purpose. And I, for a long time, viewed my purpose as what I was doing instead of why I was doing. It's the why you do things, not necessarily the what, because that always changes. But so I love that. What would you say? So the people that you work with are struggling with their relationships with their adult children. Is that what you would say that they
Yes.
mostly focus on? Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so that has anything to do with, most of the time, the 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 struggle is with them. It's they're not getting their needs met. Their children aren't including them in their lives. Their children aren't taking an interest in what they're doing in their lives, or even what their opinion is about, let's just say, politics or world,
Mm-hmm.
events. They're, I mean, it goes down to they, as little as minor as they're not answering their texts on
Yes.
at the timely basis they think they should be answering them. And so then they start reading all these things into it. The parent, the mom, will say, starts building a story as to why their children don't like them as much, or why they're not as important. And really, that is not going on at all. couple things we fail to realize: they are now an adult just like us. They become, instead of, you're still the parent and they're still the child, but you have a more equal, I don't want to say role, but your thinking, your activities, your lifestyle, what you do in life, you're both concerned about how you're going to pay your rent, food, whatever, where before they were dependent upon you. So, it's like, well, we don't have to do that anymore. And not that we're wishing we could pay their rent and food, but it's just analogous with them not needing us for so many other things. And so it comes down to adult children, what they crave more than anything is autonomy, to be able to govern themselves, to be recognized that they are capable for making their own decisions. And yep, the truth is they don't need and they don't want your help as much as they needed it before, because that robs them of the very thing they crave, and that's to be able to take care of themselves by themselves, without another adult, another equal, trying to tell them what to do. And so maybe they don't express that as respectfully as they should, but it's that autonomy that they crave, and it's the very thing we raise them to want to be able to do.
Yeah, my husband always said that as my kids were leaving. He's like, Jill, this is what we want. We want them to be adults and be self-sufficient and all those things. It is what we want, but it can be a little scary because it's just so different than what we've been doing. Yeah. And you think about it, like Heavenly Father's plan was agency, right? And so often as parents of adult children, I think we lose sight of that they really did come to exercise their agency. And the other plan that was offered was the one we're trying to do, but which is dictate the choices they make, right? And that isn't part of the greater plan. It really is all about agency and letting them exercise agency just as we exercise agency. And it's funny to look back, like we look at our parents parenting us and we wanted to be our own person. So it makes total sense that our kids would want the same thing. We're just designed for that.
So yes, and I think there's a fine line there of, okay, so when do I step in?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this idea of agency, and I believe it was a God-given gift.
Mm-hmm.
All of us. It's just not something that's there, but it was actually a God-given gift. He intentionally set it up, and we grow and we learn better through, it doesn't have to be that way, but when we do make mistakes and we do fail, I call it interfering with God's business. Let's stay out of his business. And because part of it was I think there were times as we went through, we learn from our mistakes. So we need to allow them to do that instead of stepping in and preventing a mistake or a poor decision to be made. These were children. They're not ours.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
entrusted to us to raise the best we could, to teach them the gospel and teach them right from wrong, and to give them a good start. But they then, with their agency, they have a chance to adopt and follow our values, or to choose not to, and to do it a different way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so we have to allow them to go through that, because, I mean, of course we think, well, I did it that way and it worked out well for me, so it must be the right way for everybody. And that is a lie that sometimes we tell ourselves,
Yeah.
or
Well,
would
and
want to believe.
yeah, and I think when we focus in that way, that sets us up for some real unhappiness. If we believe our way is the way, then we're going to be unhappy all the time, right? Because we have this expectation of what it should look like. And I think for many of us, it's so easy to go there. Like you said, we've done it a way and it's worked out well. So it leads us to believe that that is the way. Yeah. And not that it's not a good way. And of course, we're going to want that for our kids. But when we're set on it looking that way or going that way for them, more times than not, we'll be disappointed because they're a unique person. They're their own person and they're not supposed to do it exactly the way we did it.
Right. And so that, that goes back to, respecting that them as your child, but they are now an adult child. And so we give them the same respect and interest, allowance, whatever, that you maybe would a really good friend,
Yeah.
and yet we tend to think, we've got a right, we've got some ownership. A lot of times it even goes back to entitlement.
Yeah.
How could they be taking on a job like that when they know it's probably not going to perhaps make enough money to live a decent lifestyle, but we're into their business. None of that is our business. I had one child that lived in New York, and for a while there were 3 kids, and the 2 of them in a 1-bedroom apartment. And that was so common in New York. But, I'm going, this doesn't feel right. How could they do this? And yet, her kids have turned out wonderfully,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
we just don't know. It's, let's assume the best. Let's
Yeah.
trust them, and let's trust ourselves that we got them off to a good start. Yeah, we weren't perfect, but we did get them off to a good start. And there's no guarantees of what kind of an environment a child was raised in, of what kind of actions. I mean, there can be some real sorrowful actions as becoming addicted to drugs that, yep, it was probably something of their own doing, something they were taught to even avoid, to watch out for. But now what do we do? I feel our main responsibility for our adult children, our role is to love them just the way they are. And so many parents will balk at that because, say, for a drug addict, to them, it feels like they're condoning the behavior. And that is not true. It's when kids are in those situations that they need the love from their parents more than ever.
Yeah. Well, and I often think of like, you know, our role is to point them to Christ. And can we point them to him through judgment or conditional love? We can't. That's not going to show them him, right? The only way we can show them him is to be like him and to love them. And, I just, the Savior himself said, I come not to condemn the world, right? And so it's like, it isn't our job to condemn, it's our job to love and guide. And I think that more times than not, my prayer is help me know what not to say.
Right, that's a good one.
Help me be quiet when it's necessary.
Right.
But
And when our children get so far off the path of the gospel of Jesus Christ teaching, you know, it's we tend to want to judge them. Well, they'd be a lot happier, without making those choices or whatever. But then I asked myself, when I am judging, I am off the path.
yeah,
He has asked us to love them, to love everyone, to forgive everyone, to not judge anyone. And he did not set up any conditions, only if they are doing certain things or acting certain ways or whatever. And that's why I say, hey, my job is to love and not judge and forgive, and the rest of that is God's business, and
yeah,
he'll take care of that when and if necessary.
yeah,
And he's more concerned, I believe our Heavenly Father is more concerned about the well-being of my kids than I am.
yes,
And it's almost like he said, the one thing you can do is continue to love them. And there's good in everyone.
yeah, yeah. I love how you said, let's just assume the best. Let's assume the best in everyone, right? We're all doing the best we can. And when we can view our kids that way, like their journey is their journey, and they're here to navigate it in their way. And so let's just assume the best in them, that they're doing their best in their journey. So I love that. Because what's the downside of assuming the best? Right?
Right. There's
There's
nothing.
no downside. We show up better and I think it goes the same for us as parents of adult children. Let's just assume we did our best. Let's just assume that we're still going to just do our best. Does it mean we're going to goof up sometimes? 100%. But our best doesn't mean perfect. It just means our best. We just give it our best. And we have a better chance of doing our best when we approach it from love.
Right. And it
Right?
could come down to, I mean, I believe all of us just want to feel good. We just want to put our heads down on our pillow at night and say, yeah, things are not perfect. I even wish they were a little bit better, but having that hope that there's always the possibility, even in the worst case scenarios of some of our children's actions, that things can change. And so again, that's I'm going to assume that it's even possible that this may be the very thing that changes, their life completely around. And
Yeah.
when judging them, it doesn't feel good. And when we're loving them, it feels good every time. So, like I say, even if it's selfish, even if it keeps you being able to live a normal functioning life where you're able to make a contribution to the world, to whoever, that you're not weighed down maybe by one of your children making some poor choices.
Yeah. I love that. So if you were to, I think that's a perfect little snippet that people could take away for sure, is just work on loving more, not less. Right. But what's one thing that you would love listeners to take away from this conversation? And if you could share with them something they could start doing or stop doing today that may help them move closer to that um, ideal of loving more. Or
I feel that we need to praise our children more. We need to, anything we admire about them, anything we see that they're doing right, is to make sure they know that we think they are great and wonderful. I think that has far more influence than pointing out, now, if you weren't doing this, if you were saving more money, you could get into a house quicker, or you could have a more secure lifestyle, or we never have to point out anything they're doing wrong, but it's focusing, first of all, even in our minds, what they are doing right, and then telling them that. I just think in general, we don't praise each other enough. We don't praise ourselves enough for the good things that we do. And one gets you, the more you love and praise yourself, the easier it is to praise and love others, and vice versa. And so my husband is so good at this. There is not one text that he does not, and he's not a big communicator. I usually do most of the communicating with the kids, whether it's phone calls or texts, but he always leaves them with, gee, you're doing a great job as a mom. I really admire how you're able to support and love that difficult child you have or whatever. So it's letting our kids know that we recognize and are focusing on the things that they're doing right.
Yeah, I love that. It's so simple, but yet powerful. And like you said, I think we don't do it enough. I think sometimes we think, oh, well, they know how I feel, right? But yet, when we even look at our own self, we all love to feel like we matter and that we're loved and that we're doing a good job. So I just love that. So simple, yet so powerful. Not necessarily easy in the beginning, because maybe it's something we aren't practiced at, but um, I find that when I do that, it becomes easier, right? It just starts with noticing that one thing that you love about that child and then telling them. I love that. I love that. I could talk to you all day, Bonnie. This is awesome.
There's lots to talk about.
Lots to talk about. And
I just want to say, I know there's a lot of women out there, that are in pain over their relationship. But again, I feel love is the answer. And of course, I believe the answer to everything is through Jesus Christ. And to me, one of the prime teachings and example he is love. And so we've got to make it simple because there's so many things out there. And so if we were just to focus on how can I be better at showing up as love? Or I'd
yeah,
like to ask myself, we ask the question, what would Jesus do? What would love do?
yeah, because Jesus is love.
Right. And
Yeah.
sometimes it makes it, well, love wouldn't scold them in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, love would show forth an increase of love and praise. And I believe that has greater influence
Yeah.
over them being the best person they can be.
Mm-hmm.
When we do that, we're showing up as the best version of ourselves. And I think it has a greater influence over having a good relationship with our adult children.
Yeah. Because when we can't control them, but I really think we influence others, right? And when we show up in a loving way instead of a judgmental way, it can't help. It can't but help that relationship, right? They feel it. They're influenced by how we respond, how we engage, how we communicate with them. And if it's out of love, I just, I've never seen, maybe I should say never, but it's when I am focused on showing up as my best, which is love, it always works out. It just always works out, whether they necessarily receive it exactly how I intend. I feel better, but they come along. They come along because they feel it.
Someone once told me, he said, the 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 epidemic of despair amongst parents of adult children, of things not working out the way they wanted to. And he was talking about some real serious, you know, uh, behaviors that were inappropriate to being a responsible person in society. but he said is our unwillingness to wait. So it's easy for parents to say, well, I tried this and I gave, the support or showed this kind of love and nothing happened. But it takes a lot of courage to admit that you could be wrong and that you need to change. And so we just keep giving love, and we have to be willing to wait.
Yeah.
Or that goodness, that miracle, that whatever to happen.
Yeah. And as President Nelson says, expect miracles, right? And it's a lot better waiting time if we're loving.
Right.
Than if we're angry or judgmental. That waiting's going to feel like torture, right?
Right.
But yeah, so I love that. So love more, praise more, and wait. Just wait. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Bonnie, for being here. It's been so fun. And I would love for people to be able to find you. You have a podcast as well. So tell people where they can find you and the name of your podcast.
Okay. My podcast is Loving on Purpose, and it has mainly, I'd say 95% to do with your relationships with your adult children and how to be accepting. Sometimes we just have to, the peace comes from accepting that this is the type of life they want to live, that may even include having no contact with you, which is something, very difficult. But again, we wait. You can find me. I have a website, bonnielyman.com. And you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Bonnie Lyman Coaching. That's, I guess, my handle name. And I do offer a complimentary strategy call where you can get a little bit of help. If you want more help, we can talk about that. And you can find that by going to my easiest way is probably either my Instagram or my website.
Okay. Awesome. Great. Well, you're doing wonderful things. And I
Just as you are, Bill.
I think that there's a real need for this type of coaching, this kind of niche where women are looking for support in this transition. I think you offer such a beautiful service. So we're all doing good things. And that's why I love having coaches on here, because I love hearing their perspective and what they're offering. And I just think the more good we put out, the better. So thank you so much for being here.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you hear, I would love it if you would share it with your friends and family and leave me a rating and review. If you'd like to learn more about what life coaching is, please schedule a free discovery call with me where we can work together through something that's causing you a problem. Just go to my website, seasons-coaching.com, and you can also find information about my Seasons of Joy one-on-one coaching program and my Seasons of Joy community. Have a joyful week, and I'll see you next time.